Welcome back to another background information sort of video. Now what goes into these is me talking about the sort of inspirations of what created it. First of all, I just want to get some things out here. If you're not interested in this sort of video, it's not for you. I don't want to waste your time. These are stories that I put together in my head and for turning Skyrim into something more than just a video game that you'd expect. You know, you play as the last Dragonborn. You go, you do what you can. You save the game, you quit the game, you move on to a different Dragonborn, and so, you just keep repeating that until you run out of ideas. The idea of this entire thing is to play multiple different characters in the one game while keeping Skyrim's story intact, making it feel 10 times richer than it was just some ordinary, boring playthrough. Many roles, different personalities, and they've all got their own parts, their own quests, their own stories in the game without breaking the game, making it feel like you're crossing too many lines. It all feels naturally perfect to me, and I love that. And end of the day, no one asks these stories, and it's just something I wanted to put out there, and people enjoy it, and that's great. I love seeing interactions from the people in the comments that talk about the characters, and that's great. I mean, it means I'm doing my job if you guys really enjoy this sort of stuff. A lot of this stuff, is effort I put into it, is due to Arcane. That show kind of railed me hard, bro. There was no spit involved whatsoever. That was just straight up soul rape. I could not tear my eyes away from that show, and it actually gave me depression. It really did. And I'm starting to come out of it now, thankfully. Thank fuck. But the level of stories, characters, animation, art, music, it was just way too much, bro. I do not let the world fuck with me at all. Like, I reflect it. I give zero shits, but this fictional story, just like I said, it soul raped me. And I put a lot of that pain into whatever the fuck was going on in my head and my soul into making these chapters. It was a good distraction, and hopefully I did a better job with them doing that. Funny enough, I'll talk about this in another video later on when I get a webcam. These stories were actually created from a previous set of pain that I went through with Avatar Korra. I got angry about that one because I never got to see her love life unless it was in a comic book. But yeah, these stories are they're all inspired from Avatar, Airbender, and Korra because I wanted the idea of Team Dragonborn, Team Avatar and stuff like that. But this one, when it comes to stories, I don't exactly know where I'm going to take them when it comes to the episodes. Chapters, I know where they're going. I know the structure they want to take place. I mean, it's safe to say when you're writing a story, you want to know where it starts and you want to know where it finishes. It's before you've even started it. Alright, you want to know those two very defining points, where it starts and where it ends. And of course, sometimes those things change or they evolve and they get better, and that's great. I mean, that's the awesome thing about storytelling, is that these stories will write themselves. You have a plan, but sometimes those plans, they change, and well, they don't necessarily change, they just get better. And this is kind of what happens with these ones. Except the episodes, I have no idea what I'm doing when I start these. I just go on an idea and hopefully it works. And so far it has, which is good. But episodes are it's breathing the life into the story, I want to think. Chapters are defining moments of the story, but the episodes are more of like the life of happening. And again, these entire things, it's called the Journeys of the Dragonborn, but really it's the journeys of everyone that helped to get here. It's everyone that built the story before her coming together and interacting. Like the Nightingale right there, she's fighting with a sword and a shield, attacking a dragon, and she's using a bow. She's a Thieves Guild character. You've got the Civil War characters, the Guild characters, the miscellaneous supernatural mercenary characters. All their characters, all their stories come together, and I love doing this because it just feels fitting for a book, a visual. I mean, I'm still on like a sleeping pill drug, so I apologise. A visual novelisation of Skyrim, and this is what I love doing. It comes from my heart into your eyes, and hopefully you guys get to enjoy it as much as I do making it. Putting together is a pain in the ass, but again, this comes from pure and absolute passion. I do use AI voices, and people, are very touchy about AI, especially see that with art, because, artists are going to feel robbed if someone's using AI to make paintings and stuff like that. I can definitely see that. I'm at the moment actually paying an artist for a new paint job. Not a paint job, a new piece of art. The icon over my YouTube channel, which is Centaurus, I'm getting them to, after like a year or so, to actually make Sigund. I've started that. But when it comes to voices, I would not be able to do these stories at all without those voices, without Sigund's voice. I'm sorry, I don't know the voice actress's name, but her voice is beautiful in Skyrim. It's a proper Nordic voice, proper Viking voice. And I wouldn't be able to do it without him. I just simply wouldn't be able to do it. It'd be impossible. If these voices got shut down or anything, I don't think I wouldn't even bother continuing this at all. I mean, 100% essential to these stories is AI voice from Eleven's lab, and I wouldn't continue it without it. And that's just the sad truth about it. But hopefully, AI isn't all bad. It all depends. It's like anything in this world. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, and people can use things that can be used for good for bad. Life isn't black and white. It really fucking isn't. You got to put yourself in the white, or you end up putting yourself in the black, and you're fair and fine to live in between. Now, let's get into some the story elements of this entire thing. I decided to go through this with actually one of my Discord dudes. He talked about this location having a dragon priest, and I thought, I'll hit that next since I'm in the west. And I kind of wanted to put a lot of Draga around it. Naturally, this place is housed to the bandits, so I wanted to eradicate them and put Draga in there because the dragon priest is awoken. Normally, when you find dragon priests in Skyrim, you bounce them out of a tomb because you've disturbed the place. But now that the dragons are fully back, I wish I didn't kill that many to start off with, to be honest with you. But now that they're back, the dragon priests are fully awake and they're rallying Draga to their cause. And I want them to attack towns and cities. I could possibly make a mod like that, possibly, or find a mod, or just spawn them in, and I naturally do anyway. So the Draga, I want to become a threat in these episodes, that they're gonna start, waking up and being organised. Because they're inside their tombs. That's just the way it is. They're inside their tombs. They only wake up when you disturb them, or they've been disturbed prior to arriving. Now they're going to be out there moving around in the daylight, which is unheard of, unless it's winter. And attacking towns, attacking cities, patrolling the roads, and trying to find people to kill so they send their souls to Sovngarde. For Elduin's feast. They're going to be like racist, undead Nords that only solely attack Nords. But yeah. And this is the first chance for Ragni to see firsthand what a Dragon Priest is. She's never faced one. It's only Minerva and Tonrock that have faced Dragon Priest. He's only faced one. But this will kind of come into a later thing. It's a bit of a spoiler, but when she faces down the last Dragon Priest, she'll know who to send it to, because Minerva can't access this environment where she's going to. She can't find it, and she knows that Minerva really wants to complete this puzzle. And, well, she'll get a letter and a message from a friend with a Dragon Priest mask in the mail, knowing that someone is still out there. But I'm spoiling all my shit. Again, this isn't canon. It's more of like a visual fan fiction. But yeah, it's anything kind of serves the purpose. I mean, I want to get into the role where she starts seeing a lot more visions. And I don't want every dream of hers to be kind of like that, because that'd be tiring as shit. Honestly, going to sleep and seeing visions of words of power. And a lot of these words of power are shit. But I don't want to know what kind of word of power it is, because if I know they're shit and they're useless, I'm not going to waste time on them in an episode. I'll just do a time jump like a week later. I kind of want to do that because I want to kind of increase time and have things graduate through. I'll still definitely play them, but I won't really record it in the fact. But I kind of saw the story. I wanted it to go all the way to the end of, or the start of winter, where Elduin is defeated, and that's kind of where I want to go. But at the moment we're in summer, so we've got to go through summer, and we've got to go through autumn. Right, so I don't know if I'll even get there that far, to be honest. I've got to find ways to do that, to try and get from summer to the end of autumn, or fall, whatever you call it, whatever part of the world you're in. Things like that. So this is kind of, it's one of these things, and two dragons, we faced two dragons, we lost 4 dudes. There's only 2 Stormcloaks and 2 Imperials, which is kind of, that's the entire reason I kind of make him, is to die, unfortunately. But it's to add gravity to the characters that command him, like Centaurus, Sigurd, and now the Dragonborn, since they are fighting on her behalf, no longer killing each other in the battlefield, but they're fighting alongside the Dragonborn to, help her kill dragons, help her save the world, and follow their commanders, that follow the Dragonborn, stuff like that. That's kind of the whole entire idea of it. First of all, the joke Serana says here is disgusting. I don't write this from my perspective, okay? I know, as a storyteller, you kind of want to jump into the characters when you're talking as them. And a vampire blood joke would be the kind of thing that the vampire would say. And it was disgusting. Absolutely. I mean, yuck. But whatever. Vampires have a great sense of humour in my story anyway. Unless, of course, it's Cecilia dropping dead jokes. But, look, it was fucking filth. It was. Yuck. And from a dude, this is going to sound horrible, they just remind me of period jokes. Man, that's crossing the line. That's gross. Anyway, we're going to get out of that, and we'll get into some more story meaty elements of this, because I felt disgusted writing that. I really did. So we get to a certain bit, right? The last episode, it was really 100% focused on Sigurd and Centaurus and Solitude. This was a good moment well, I wouldn't say it was good, but it was a moment for them to wake up to the reality of where they were, who they are. They've come close because they've had to stick with the Dragonborn, stick by each other's side, and they've kind of, when you're in the moment of things, you got to keep your head there in where you are, not on the outside politics of this is the Stormcloaks are enemies, the Imperials are enemies, and this and that. You've got to stick to your head, keep it clear, keep it clean, unless you're me, in the current situation. And they're grown quite close with each other because they've got the same backgrounds. They're both soldiers. They're both loyal to their cause. They both want the Dragonborn to join their side. But over that, they deeply care for the Dragonborn as a little sister or someone they deeply both care about, immensely. Someone they love. And it's brought them together where they've kind of seen past their situations of their symbols and their allegiances. And Solitude really woke them both up to it, especially Sigurd. She's always kept her shit well together. But what Maria described to her, revealing what happened to her sister, really, it broke through and she fell prey to her own emotions, as you do. And she got onto the drink and she made a bit of a fool of herself. And when Centaurus was taking her boots off, she stood up and kissed him. Out of the raw emotion of him helping her and being always good to her. And regardless of their allegiances, that Centaurus was always kind. Or I wouldn't say always kind, but always respectful. And she fell prey to her own emotions, and she knows she did this. He doesn't know if she remembers or not, and she sees the negative effects of what Marulia said to Centaurus, that she thinks him a traitor, and that the Imperials could think he's a traitor, and she doesn't want to risk his life. She doesn't want him to be killed by his own people because they think he's getting close to her, that he could join her side in the Civil War. And so she's decided to, it's not just for Centaurus, but it's for herself. She knows that she's a Stormcloak. She knows that her own could sink of this. And so she has to cut their friendship in half. She has to say, no, we cannot hang around each other like we used to, because both their sides will be watching us. Both their sides probably already think we're traitors. And we can't afford that. It's for her image also, but it's also that she doesn't want Centaurus to be harmed and killed in this entire thing. And they're going to be a lot more careful. Now, again, Centaurus, he doesn't care what people think about him. He's always been that sort of, he's very loyal to his cause. As long as he's loyal, he doesn't give two shits what people think about him. And Sigurd, unfortunately, cuts him down before he can fully express this. And he feels like he's being used. He feels like the person he's deeply cared about. I wouldn't say it's love, anything like that. It is a deep emotional connection. It is, they're on the same, like I said, they're the same background, same sort of thing, just a mirrored version of each other. The one side of the two sides of the one coin. And feeling this sort of relationship with her, this closeness, this bond, this battle bond, this whatever they are, and feeling Sigurd just ripped that away from him, it made him upset and angry. And with us men, at least, and this I can do from my perspective, is that when someone does that to me, man, my first resort isn't crying or being sad. Well, at least right there, it's being angry. It's masking my sadness of anger. And that's kind of what Centaurus does. He feels robbed that, he's grown close to this woman, and he shares a lot of ideals, and he understands her, and she understands him, and he feels like he's just had the band-aid ripped off before the wound's even healed. And it makes him angry, and rightfully so. What she's doing would hurt a lot, and I don't know, man. I understood that I moved a little, and that's what I mean. I don't really write these stories. I don't plan them. I just go with the flow. And I kind of went maybe a little too far with them, but that's okay, because in that environment where they were and who they are and what they're doing, that can kind of happen in those sort of environments. Things can travel a little bit too far where they should, and sometimes you need to put the belt buckle back on, put the seatbelt back on, because you've gone a little too fast without your seatbelt on. And so this is kind of that, and I want to take place. It's always a enemies to lovers sort of thing, that something happens that just kind of tears them apart, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, when it comes to someone that you deeply care about, if you physically can't see him, maybe one day you might get over him. But if you're forced to not hang around him, but you can physically see him every day, it somehow draws you closer. I just have to do it right. and hopefully not fuck it up. But I think I've done an alright job so far. For this entire scene, I wanted to go back in time, a little bit of a bit of a prequel, Cecilia and Freya. The story is that Freya was found as 10 years old, dying on the side of a road, freezing to death, and Cecilia found her and raised her as their own, taught her how to use the blade instead of the claws. Cecilia trained Freya to what she is today, and I wanted to do like a little go back in time sort of thing where you see Freya when she was around Ragnar's age, 19, when she could recently start turning into a werewolf. And as you can see, she's got different skin, no tattoos. She's a vastly different person back then. And I kind of wanted to make the environment look a little bit different, so I decided to do it in winter, so you go from the green grass of summer to the snows of winter, which I thought was pretty cool. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that too. But it's a little bit of a prequel, and you can hear kind of them talking about it's like not relying on your natural strength, because your natural strength will be used against you if you rely on it too much. She could easily turn into a werewolf and slaughter all these guys, but all it takes is a bit of cockiness and pride and arrogance for it to happen again to the wrong person that knows how to hunt werewolves, and you're dead. And Cecilia basically tells her this. It's like, I go out and I hunt during the day, because if I don't discover the weakness, if I don't strengthen my weaknesses, then I'm as good as dead when people come for me during when I'm weak. And that's kind of the idea of this, that they fight, with blade and steel. It makes it quite practical. It saved both their lives more than once, but this is kind of just a little bit of a background, kind of a memory they had when they were a lot younger. This is probably like 10 or 9 years ago, before the Dragonborn, so it's stuff like that. You don't see Freya with a big-ass axe, because Cecilia taught her how to use a shield and a sword. And she got this axe in her... I don't know if I want to do this recently, or I probably could... I probably will, actually. But we'll see a bit more of that later on, in another episode, where sort of Freya we kind of discover how Freya got the axe in a certain way. Which would be pretty cool, because she is the champion of her scene, and she was before she got the ring of her scene, at least in this story, which goes all the way back to, I think, episode 2. It's so long, chapter 2, so goddamn long ago, holy shit. If I ever do these stories, I definitely plan on filling these characters out a lot more before I go jumping to the guild characters, that's for sure. But yes, this was just a little bit of a prequel, a bit of fun to fill the episode in. So, Ragni, she experiences another vision up high. Kind of the whole idea where the Greybeards are up there, because the Greybeards are actually worshippers of Kinnereth. Not the worshippers of the Thorn, they're worshippers of Kinnereth that learn the dragon magic. And up high, they can hear the whispers across the world because they're in the highest place in the world and all that sort of stuff. So she's up high, she can hear a voice really close to her. The last time she tried this, she was unable to do it. She just couldn't. But this time she can, because there's a certain reason it's sitting right beside of her. She feels safe when Serana's around. I got the idea of actual Legends of Korra. When Korra goes in to meditate in the spirit world, Asami's always guarding her. So I thought, why not? Why not have Serana guard her? And she, that whenever Serana's not around, she feels sort of unsafe, unsure, and she can't really communicate, with the wind and find words of power. But whenever Serana is around, she feels safe and she feels protected, and she's able to easily leave her body and follow the wind, follow the voice of Kine. And this is kind of what happens here. And there's a lot more goes into this, of course. I don't want these to kind of be day by day by day by day. I mean, there's only so much a character should be able to handle during a day, especially with all the death and the injuries and stuff like that. But, yeah. Now, we get a bit more spotlight with Elora. I haven't done much of her ever since the campfire. But my very first ever sort of character blending together with Elora, the Dragonborn, Sigarn Centaurus, and I don't know if anyone else was actually there. I don't know. Maybe, I don't think there was. But yeah, there's got some more Elora story there, but what I really wanted to focus on was the Dremora Nox. She's a bit unique, The Dremoras, they obviously don't care about humankind. I had to remember this, that she's not going to help out of the kindness of her heart. She doesn't give two shits for mortals. Her entire story is when the dragon, when Dagon walked Tamriel and was sent back, the Oblivion Gates closed, and she was one of the Daedra that didn't get sucked back into the gates. Normally her clan would just retreat to a cave and worship their lord and kill mortals and stuff like that, doing what they typically do. But she decided that this was her freedom, this is her chance, and she camouflaged as mortals and live amongst them as servants, woodcutters, bloody maids, blacksmith, whatever she could do. I mean, the choice, sure, these jobs are boring to mortals, some of them can be, but the idea of choice for someone that's lived for probably thousands upon millions of years to do anything she wanted was absolutely freeing. And this is what she's been doing since 200 years on Tamriel, just doing random jobs. And the dragons threaten that. She's not here to help mortal kind, she's here to keep her freedom. And in doing so, very much like the Nightingale, she's not doing it out of the kindness of her heart to stop the dragon. She's doing it because the dragon's burn everything down, there's no gold to earn, there's no power to have. So she's doing it because of that. And she's with two of Cecilia's companions. So Cecilia fought her kind in the Oblivion Crisis, and well, Freya's very hostile against her because, again, she did grow up with Cecilia and heard all about it, and she's got that sort of that third-person hatred towards Delmora because of Cecilia. And referencing that Zarita kind of watches her sleep, so when they sleep together, she has nightmares on that entire thing. She also mentions that she was a prostitute, and I thought this would be a bit of time to put some humour into Tonrock. He's like, oh, what's your gun rate? I haven't had one with horns before. And unfortunately that would make Minerva quite upset, because they do sleep together. They are close. They've been close since Jorvaskar, and everyone knows they're with each other. It's not like an official, like, they're not married, they're not partners, but it's convenience more of, like, they're both, and having the man you're with, the man you like, you think's handsome and a good soldier and an honourable man, talk smack about having sex with whores, and while you're around him, it's going to make you look bad. It's going to make you look like you're a whore. And Minerva doesn't like that. She's a very freeing, spontaneous elf, like no other high elf I've seen in Skyrim. She's not going to appreciate the man she's with talking about bed and whores while she's sitting right beside him. And she does crack the shits, which is more than natural, like definitely, and all that sort of stuff. Now, right here, I wanted to get into like the whole. I do lots of LGB stuff. Lesbians, gays and bis. My Assassin's character's bi. I'm a straight dude. It was hard filming that scene where he was railing a dude. I'd lock my door so people didn't walk in, because that's something I would not be able to explain. But Freya basically says, I'll sleep with you if you want some freedom. And she goes, ew, that's disgusting. To make the story sound grand, like, I know people with the LGBT plus community and all that sort of shit, they want stories where being gay doesn't, it's not a bad thing, but I'm a straight dude. I guess it makes the story feel more real for me, where you've got people that like it, people that don't like it, people that don't give a shit. And for me, the East don't like is the traditional Nords. If they're going to be racist, they're going to be sexist. The Western side of Skyrim isn't going to give too much shits because they're imperialized, and I see the Imperials a bit like the old ancient Romans that didn't give two shits if you bettered dudes or women, as long as you were loyal to the Empire. So it's kind of a mix between all these sorts of different cultures, and the Orcs aren't a big fan of that because they're very Malakath, very traditional. So that she's like, the idea of sleeping with a woman was like, ugh, disgusting to that orc. But yeah, that's kind of the way I wanted to go. If you're gonna have some lesbians, bis, whatever, you gotta have that. Now we have Tonrock basically saying, have you ever been with a man? She goes, yes, I've been with a man, but it wasn't like, it was fun, but it didn't hold my interest. And she mentions that she one day wants to have a kid. There's only one way of doing it in Tamriel. There's no science, there's no magical stuff like that. So, whenever she's one day wants to try for a child, she'll go for Tonrock, and then kind of Minerva gets a little bit angry, but chips in and says, don't worry about him, I'll go with you, we can't make babies, we can have a lot of fun. And, Freya's like, yep, interested, goodbye Tonrock, your offer has expired, and then I'll come back another day, one day, maybe, probably, I don't know. But it's not fully sexualized like that, as you'll see later on in the episode. It was more of just to stir Tonrock up and tease him. And they very well might, sleep with each other, I don't know. Minerva is bisexual, and Freya is a lesbian. But, who knows? It's more of a thing where they had a conversation, a bit of a talk, and, basically Freya told her that she was doing a ritual turning to night, so there was no even room for having sex at all. And Minerva wanted to study that, because she's a researcher. She's very... I don't know the word, it makes me sound so stupid, even though I put smart dialogue in there for her. She wants to research the event of an actual werewolf turning. And I think Cecilia's going to be a big fan of that in the next episode, but we get to see that hands-on kind of the whole turning of a ritual for and I've even got ideas of it later on, where it's like, are these werewolves going to be more powerful because they were turned by a pureblood? Or, I don't know. We'll get to that when we get to that. Now we get back to the fort, where basically Centaurus and Sigun and whatever Imperial troops, some of the troops that lived, stay. Now they have a bit of a conversation with Dragonborn, and Centaurus, he's still very upset that what Sigun said to him, that told him to piss off pretty much. And he's like, yep, I'll scout out, I'll do this, I'll do that. And Sigun's like, dude, what the fuck, we'll do that. She kind of repeats what he says, but then you'll hear her say, we. And then, Centaurus goes and does his own thing. I kind of just wanted this little scene to have that sort of like they're ignoring each other sort of feel to it. But I kind of what I wanted to do was meet one of the new characters, and I made her a long time ago when the Dragonborn was in the Bard stage of her quest, which was a halfling of a mix between a Nordic woman and a High Elven father. And I decided to chuck her in there and give her some backstory at least, so you know who the character is. She's not just some halfling, beautiful young Nord. There's a story to it, and you get to hear that at the inn of who she is, who her mother was, who her father was, where she came from, where she grew up, and why she's in Skyrim. So there's a bit more to her, and if she does die on the battlefield to dragons or Draugr or whatever the hell kills her, you'll get to know who she was when she's buried. She wasn't just some nameless or named NPC that just died. There was a bit of a story behind her. So it's a bit more gravity to the character, but also hopefully the viewer, when she does die, that you feel that you knew something about her, which kind of makes it harder to say goodbye to these characters. Especially for me when I make them, I've got to create them, and it's a pain in the ass watching them die. It really sucks. I fear one day losing one of my main characters like Freya or Cecilia. That shit will hurt, man, for sure. Everything in my body's gonna tell me to open up the console command and type resuscitate, but Cecilia is alright unless she turns to ash. Freya, on the other hand, that one's gonna be because she's my favourite character, dude. She is my favourite character out of every last one of them. She was actually my first playable character when it comes down to it. Whenever I started doing the whole ultimate playable characters, I made her as a werewolf. Made her as a barbarian mercenary, I think, straight up, but then eventually turned her into a werewolf, and then I built Cecilia, and I guess it all starts from there. The multiple characters is actually Freya was the very first, and she's the only one that's kept her original design, because when my hard drive died a couple of years ago, she was the only one that I had left in the save, because I didn't back up all my shit, but she was still there in my old one, which was cool. Anyway, I'm going to skip out of that, and we'll jump straight into a bit more character conversations with Tonrak and Minerva. Just before I go, I actually do all this shit with their armor and clothing. I make the armor for them that fits their body, the clothing that fits their body, and even underwear, even though you don't even really ever see it. The shit that I do in this story just blows my mind. We kind of go back to Centaurus here, and he's still quite angered at what's happened to him, and he's called the Nightingale to come meet him at the watchtower, because again, she knows him. If you haven't seen it, go back to the thief quest, or the thief chapter, or whatever the hell I called it, and you actually get to meet him. He was her prison guard, pretty much, one of the ones that was nice to her, and it wasn't because he was a nice bloke. He's a decent, loyal man to the Empire, but it's because of the bond they shared, the Dragonborn. All those that followed the Doomdriven had this unique sort of weird sense about each other, though, where they trust each other somehow, and this is kind of what led them to become friends. Well, she was a prisoner, and he was a prison guard. Anyway, she trusts him. She likes him for what he used to do for her. My God, look after her and actually feed her proper food, and be nice to her. And so she's accepted his invitation and gone to find out what he wants. And he wants the area scouted out. He wants the leaders killed, even though the Dragonborn will no doubt want to find a peaceful resolution. He wants the leaders killed, and that's what he wants. He wants to infiltrate and eliminate. And so he actually pays Sigav her this, and she references the argument that he had, and he's like, "What are you doing? Are you actually following me?" Because when they their first conversation as Nightingale and Imperial, she referenced that she would always look out for him, and he's like, "Nope, no thanks." And so he's thinking that she's watching over him all the time, but she was just sitting on a log, and that actually came to me when I was doing this. I was like, wait, wasn't she actually sitting on the log? That's how she'd know this argument. She would have heard it, and I was like, holy shit, rightio, sweet, boom. So I had no idea that she was actually doing that until I looked back where she was actually sitting, and I decided to use that for this bit of the story. Anyway, so yeah, he like everyone knows she's a bit of a shady individual. She's an identity. She's not she's not Centaurus, the Imperial, Sigurd the Stormcloak, Tonrak the Harbinger, or Minerva the Archmage. She is the Nightingale. So everyone knows she's a bit of a shady business, and so he wants to kind of keep this under wraps. Where it's like, here's some gold, scout their location out, kill their leaders, leave it at that. It's actually kind of smart, because it's very tactical for a dude like this who's a military commander. Kill their leadership, so their morale goes to shit, and then there'll be a power vacuum, so whoever thinks they had the biggest balls, biggest dick in the yard will then come in and try and take over, and then those that think they've got the biggest dick in the yard will then kill them because of it, and so what they'll be left with is maybe one leader who wasn't really qualified to lead the entire group because he was a survivor of a power, struggle. Things like that, which will make fighting them a lot easier. But as we see with the Nightingale, she does at least try to attempt to see if peace is an optional thing for the Dragonborn, because she's talked to the Dragonborn as Topher and likes her. She thinks she's a really nice young woman. They're in the same age too, but the Dragonborn grew up with a loving family and a father, where Topher grew up as an orphan and then eventually a bandit. So two very different lives, one of unlove and one of love. So yeah, she at least tries for that, for this Forsworn try to attack her, and then she just basically goes, alright, it's Centaurus' plan. She infiltrates, eliminates, and gets the fuck out of there, pretty much. That's just the way it goes. I do love playing as her because, you know, like, the whole idea of this entire multiple character play series isn't just for the story, but it's so much fun, man, jumping from different roles, from the sword and the shield, to the two-handed, to the mage with the blade, to then a sneaky thief, assassin sort of character. And I love this dude. You get to just change the role, go from this person that I am is just run and charge through the gate, you know, and just cut everything down to massive battle, to then this a sneaky thief, assassin sort of play style. And it's so freeing to play Skyrim like that, where you're not restricted by one role, or you're not one character that can do all. It feels immersive and it feels just, I guess. Plus, the Nightingale doesn't get much, you know, when it comes to this story. I wanted to do a lot more with her in it for sure, 100%. With the Dragonborn and maybe other characters as the Nightingale, but the Dragonborn, she moved more a bit like Topher. But playing as her gives her some more time in the spotlight with these stories. After all, she is just a character that's joined the Dragonborn to stop the dragons from destroying the world, because there's no money to earn, there's no wealth to earn if you know, the Dragonborn fails and the dragons survive. So she's here for the sole reason of not letting the world go to shit, because it'd be unprofitable for her, sort of thing. But she does grow a bit of a heart along the way, I guess you could say, because, you know, she kind of sees the Dragonborn as someone that she wished she could have been. And at the start of course, she does join because, you know, the dragons are a threat to her power and everything like that. But at the end of it, she kind of has a bit of a soul, you know, kind of wants to help. That's kind of at least how I'm going with it, at least. So they're back at the inn, they're having an argument because of what he's been saying with sleeping with other women and blah blah, and Minerva's chucking the shits. As look, don't kill me for this, ladies, as sometimes women do. Sometimes, quotation marks, okay? And she's rightfully pissed, you know, she has a point, and then Tenrock, the dickhead, decides to go, two things I don't like in this world, high elves and mages. That's the wrong thing to say. And she is quite angry about that, even though they're sleeping together, because it's kind of hurtful that, you know, she's a mage, and she's a high elf, and you're saying you don't like either of them, but apparently I'm the better of all the bad things in the world. So how dare you call my people bad? Sure, they're not always the greatest people, but we're not bad. Sometimes. So she does crack the shits, and, you know, she's like, whatever, dude, I'm going to see Freya. And it's not to run off and have sex with Freya, because that's just not, well, I don't think any female character would do that for the sake of it, unless it was maybe just to make him jealous of another male character. But, yeah, she's like, alright, fuck this, I'm going to see the ritual tonight, see you later, dude. And one of his lines was, I didn't even think about this after I said it. It was one of the most typical quotes in the world. There's plenty of fish out in the sea. And he's like, there's plenty of fish out in the sea and not all of them are slaughter fish. And then when I was walking around thinking of where to take this, one of those undercover vampires walked through me, walked past me, and I was like, no fucking way, dude. No fucking way. He says no slaughter fish, and then he ends up finding a fish in the sea that is in fact a slaughterfish. So I went into the creation kit, man. I made an entirely new NPC right there. You're staring at her. That is an undercover vampire that will walk around the inns at night time and, you know, basically seduce men that think she's very beautiful. You know, they'll buy her drinks. You know, might do the deed with them if she wants, whatever. And then when they're tired, they're drunk, and they're asleep, she'll feed on them. And this will have a lasting consequence in his story, kind of. You'll kind of see it take effect. That, you know, when he went fishing for some new fish, he unfortunately got an oversized piranha with had fangs. Yeah, so, you know, sometimes consequences, good or bad, will always hurt. So, here we are. The ritual turning, man. I had no idea of doing this until, like, the very end of the series, man. I shit you not. This idea's just come to my head, and I let them seed, and they kind of grow a little bit, and I just take it further. I've always wanted for Freya to find werewolves, or have her own werewolves, and the Reachman girls, they're part of the Reach, and their gods are the Daedric princes, and quite a few of them with the Mad God DLC, the Madman mod turn them into werewolves, and it's kind of a natural thing amongst the Reachmen for these become beast blood. And these girls decide to follow Freya because, again, one of them is her lover, and that is Vina, the Imperial chick. She's got a thing for Imperials with brunette hair. So Vina has been her lover for a while, on and off whenever they're doing things. And of course, Octavia is a lover, and I don't know if there's a good chance that other one is. I don't know. I don't need to know everything about the character's love life. She's a very freeing soul. She likes her options, and she's turning the two sisters into werewolves. And so with this, she's able to become her own pack leader, her own matriarch, I guess you could say. And Minerva's she's always about learning and witnessing things, especially rituals like this. This is something that she can write down and pass on as knowledge as someone that has watched a ritual turning. She does have the idea of becoming one, but she's kind of hesitant on it because Tonorak did say he was one, and life is so much better without being one. And she kind of understands that maybe it's not worth becoming one if it's only for research, that it might be a bit too much of a hindrance to her life. And the idea's there, and who knows? Ragni might use the ring and give it to Minerva for a bit of a test run, and she could find out herself what it feels like to be somewhat of a werewolf. But I wanted to do this scene right, and I wanted to use a bunch of different sort of animations from the base game to kind of make it feel just, you know, as she's cutting her hand, putting it into silver goblets, walking them over, giving the goblets to the girls. They're then sculling it down, and then boom, they turn to werewolves. They go on a little hunt. I really like this part, you know, especially it's a full moon right now, and the reason why Freya isn't a werewolf because she's a pureborn. She's not forced, you know, she's not cursed like the rest of them. Octavia's a werewolf because it is a full moon. And as soon as these girls drink it, they obviously turn because that's part of the whole ritual, but they will stay that way until the full moon is down, where Freya doesn't need to be. Because pureborns get it so much easier when it comes to, they're a bit more powerful. They don't have to, at least this is my fan fiction sort of stuff. They're born with it, they've got this yellow eyes that Freya has, and they don't feel the need, they can always control their transformations. They never have the wolf trying to bust out and kill people. And they don't have to turn during full moons, where the cursed or the turned do. But they can never be cured, sort of thing. So there's a difference between pureborns, and obviously they're born with a werewolf parent. As Freya's both, I don't know if both her parents were, one of them was pureborn, one of them was turned. And again, she comes out with yellow eyes, being the child of a werewolf. She's pureborn, like Veronica and her brother, and some other characters I'm going to introduce in the next one. But anyway, this is kind of one. I wanted to do something for Freya where she was able to have her own, and this might have a bit of an argument in what happening in a sort of way when it comes down to Cecilia finding out what's happened, because she's very anti-Daedric anything, and finding out the woman she raised and turned people into werewolves, she's not going to be a big fan of it because she doesn't like Daedric things, and she might not. But again, as a werewolf, it's kind of it's a ritual sort of thing for them to do. It's part of who they are, what they are, to have a pack, even if it's turning their own or finding random ones. But I guess this is what Freya's always wanted growing up. She's seen it as a kid growing up before her family was killed and stuff like that. So she's very much her own person. She's nowhere near in the image of Cecilia. She was trained and raised by Cecilia, but she very much became her own person, which is something I've always wanted to declare on that. You are products of your environment, but you are still your own person, sort of thing. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this sort of background information. If you've got any comments, leave them on the other channel. If you've gotten this far, not the other channel, the other video, because it helps that video out a lot more when it comes to finding more people that like this sort of stuff, storytelling on a visual level like this. It helps it get to YouTube more, and more people get to enjoy it, that enjoy this sort of stuff. It's not made for everybody, that's for sure. But some people will really like this sort of stuff. And they got a lot to watch, no doubt. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Look after yourselves, okay?